Rosie the Riveter was the woman's icon of World War II. But this female equivalent of G.I. Joe wasn't named after a riveter named Rosie. In fact, she wasn't even named after only one woman. Rosie the Riveter represents more than 6 million women, recruited to fill in the workforce gap left on the home front by men enlisting to serve in World War II. After the start of the war in 1941, the U.S. government called upon American women to join the workforce in a large propaganda campaign. A campaign asking women to trade in one style of life for a completely new one. Turns out, it was a campaign that worked.
We had to do that because the men were going to war. And so we just stepped up and did it.
Well, it was very important part of history. Kind of exciting. It was something different than any of us had ever done and will probably ever do again.
All in all, over 6 million women answered the call. Between 1940 and 1945, the female percentage of the workforce increased from 27% to just over 37% of the total workforce of the United States. Over 50% of those women served in the manufacturing and defense industry plants that became known as war factories.
And we were trained at the Kern County Airport on drilling holes in the, what they call the skins, the sheet metal of the plane, they call them skins. We had a training there on learning to drill and rivet.
I riveted nacelles. I was, well, if I had a rivet here, I could show you. But you have to have a bucking bar on the inside, the person on the outside. It's kind of like putting a screw in, only you buck the back.
In movies, newspapers, posters, photographs, and articles, the Rosie the Riveter campaign stressed the patriotic need for women to enter the workforce. Rosie is most widely identified with an iconic image created in 1942 by J. Howard Miller for a poster to boost employee morale at the Westinghouse Power Company. The now infamous poster features a bandana-clad woman striking her iconic pose under the headline, "We Can Do It." Then, early in 1943, a popular song was written by Red Evans and John Jacob Loeb called Rosie the Riveter. Its popular release introduced Rosie to the world. On May 29, 1943, the Saturday Evening Post published a cover image painted by artist Norman Rockwell and possibly inspired by the song, portraying Rosie, a riveter, on a lunch break with a flag in the background and a copy of Adolf Hitler's racist tract Mein Kampf stomped under her feet. After Rockwell's cover appeared, the press quickly tried to find the real Rosie. One of the most well-known products of that search was Rose Will Monroe, a riveter who worked at an aircraft plant in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Rose gained fame upon appearing in a national film promoting war bonds. She was cast after a chance meeting with a Hollywood actor when he visited the factory. Of course, Rosie was bigger than just one woman. She has become a symbol of the hard work and sacrifice of millions of women here on the home front. In fact, Rosie, as a symbol, became so closely tied to the strength of working women that the Westinghouse poster was adopted by the feminist movement as a symbol of female empowerment in the 1980s. From a national propaganda symbol and feminist icon to a way of life for many women here at home, the story of Rosie has riveted countless generations of mothers, daughters, grandmothers, and their families. Kern County's female residents supported the war effort as Rosie's working in a variety of jobs for the Southern Pacific and Santa Fe Railroads, as well as in 3 war factories here in Bakersfield. The Vega Aircraft Corporation, an ammunition crate manufacturing plant operated by Walter Janes, and the Kern County Dehydrating Company.
So I decided there ought to be something else I could do, and also I needed the money, and I just felt like I needed to help out though more.
I really thought about going into the service myself, but my mom didn't much go for that because she already had 3 boys in the service. One was in the Air Force and one was in the Army. The other one was in the Marines.
Well, I really needed a good job, so my sister and I decided to, we applied and we got a job, and we lived on the corner of Truxton and F, and it isn't the same anymore.
I quit school to work in the airplane factory.
Well, like I said, it was kind of exciting. You felt useful. And of course, at the time, I was into sailors.
And we made bomb racks and wings is what we made. There was another one on Chester, and it made the seats that went in the plane.
We didn't like to rivet, so we had, our job was, there was a large table there. They would take the skins, put them on the frame, drill holes, bring the skins to our table, and then we had a measure, and then we would trim so far from the holes, then they would take it back and rivet it on.
I had never seen one in a plane for several years after the war. Then when they brought the B-17 to town, well, then I went out to see it and went through it.
So what went through your mind at that time, and what kind of things do you think?
Well, it was kind of crazy because we just made parts and sent them down to Burbank, and then they put them together down there. And so it was years and years later before I was ever up close to a B-17.
When they reached 5,000, finishing 5,000 B-29 bombers, they would have a holiday. And this is the day they took the picture and had the holiday. And they said the people that did the last thing to it could be in the picture.
And yeah, if the person on the outside, if you weren't bucking it, you could make a hole.
Sure.
So you had to know a little bit. And I think we were very conscientious because, I mean, people's lives are depending on it.
The work I don't think was as difficult as it was a new type of work, but we all felt like we could learn it. We were doing it to get the boys home, get the war over and get the boys home, and so we could marry them and have babies and get on with our lives.
Do you remember how much you made per week?
Oh yes, I do. I have
good.
a paper. I have a receipt that I saved, and it says that I was getting 65 cents an hour, and I think you had to join the union. And then I got a raise. I got 80 cents an hour.
Yeah.
I got paid $37 a month.
We thought it was good pay for the time.
Sure.
I think one of the fun things, of course, it was a big war effort for blood, and they would let us get off work to go get blood. I do. And that's where I started giving blood. But all of that didn't count. I'm sure I must have given a lot. But here in Bakersfield, I gave 12 gallons before they cut me off.
One thing I remember was a shortage of different things. You had to have stamps to get gas and sugar. And I think that's when the cotton got really going, because they needed the cotton for uniforms for the military guys. And I can remember that a lot of things it was hard to get, and the butter, oleo, came in a plastic bag with a little capsule in it. It was white, and you had to break the capsule, and then you kneaded the oleo until you got it the color like butter.
And then, and then there wasn't anything to do after you got off work except go bowling.
One thing I do remember is I got a piece of steel in my eye. There was, little pieces of steel. And I had to go to the doctor, probably the business doctor, and I had to go on the bus. I can remember I had tears rolling down my face.
No, I don't think we thought much about it. We just did what we thought we had to do.
I was really proud to work there. I thought it was something that had to be done. And I was glad I could do it.
When you look back at 18, we thought of my cousin, who's exact my age, and my older sister. It was interesting, like a lot of jobs I've had, and fun. It was fun. And yes, we thought we were accomplishing something.
I felt like that I was part of it when I was working, because that's what we had to do, that because the men were going to war. And so we just stepped up and did it.